Stop confusing. No, it's 19:15 and 25 seconds. Yes. Well, it's just past the squirrel. Yeah, I know about that. Right. Thank you very much. And it's 7:15 and it's time for us to get started. I'd like to start off by wishing everybody a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And looking forward to the year that's coming ahead of us. Right, if I may start with apologies for absence, please.
Tony Fell, Kim Cooper, and Anthony Ray.
Thank you very much.
So you put Karen in there?
I did.
Right, the next item is the public participation time of 15 minutes. I am sort of assuming a lot of you hear about the Mill Lane application. I have to say that it's actually been deferred because the information that we received and planning application is incorrect. So we cannot really discuss that matter or anything. But what we will be doing is, if you wish to come along and it will be noted, we'll have it on the planning committee, and you'll be more than welcome to come along to that.
22nd.
Right.
Can I just say that I've spoken to the planning officers about this, because this is it's like Groundhog Day, but the Jake's Land participants. And I was just speaking with some residents who are here because of that. because it seems to me that with, first of all, the 5-year land supply, and then more latterly the local plan, this spot is not in the local plan. We have successfully fought appeals against rejections because we've now got either a 5-year land supply and or the local plan. So, although everybody's, happy for people to come along and object to this,
Absolutely.
but as far as I'm aware, and from the guidance from the officers, it is quite likely to be rejected even before it got to the planning appeal.
Okay.
Just to give people some comfort in where we're at. Yes.
Tony?
It might be helpful if you explain to people in what way what we've got is wrong.
Yes.
Well, the application that as in the application we've received, the application that we've received is for 46 dwellings, and the actual official application is for 30 dwellings. So it's actually incorrect. So, it's really difficult to make any comment or even though it's likely to go the road it's going to go, on that proviso. So we would have to get the right information before we could make representation. Yes, Squire.
Will on the website, the deadline for comments is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if Parish Council is going to discuss it later...
That'll be extended.
It's
It will be
Probably
extended.
extended, yes, in view of the discrepancy.
Yeah, because it's their fault.
In fact, there's no notice on the site.
If you like, I've got an email from the officer, Karen Coggins, who's dealing with this, and she reassures me that it will be extended for comments to be made and received before it gets closed.
Okay, so coming back to the public participation, I know that that's the main reason a lot of you were here. Is there any comments you'd like to make? Taking into account that we were not discussing that particular item.
If I may, Chairman, just make one observation, and that's on behalf of John Huntington's charity. We have put in a preliminary, robust objection on the grounds that the plan shows a pedestrian link directly into our allotment lands. No link exists, either privately or publicly.
And I'm sure you'll be raising that issue.
Oh, indeed.
Anyone else got any comments? Reg, you had something else you wanted to ask?
Yes, it's unrelated, no problem, so don't look so worried. You were kind enough to send us letters, residents and businesses, the neighbourhood plan. I'd just like to know how that's progressing.
Yeah, thank you. It's always nice to have some interest in the neighbourhood plan. We actually have a drop-in session tomorrow lunchtime, 12 o'clock, which has been in the leaflet for a while, and also on the dates which are on the next board, I think, Joe. So we're hoping to get some residents along for that as well, to continue with the engagement session. As you know as well, Reg, one of the things we've been focusing on since September is the village design statement, and that will of course inform the neighbourhood plan greatly. It's very important we get that done, and that it's closing stages now. That was always going to be quite a short project, which was why we were very keen to progress with it. And we've just arranged a feedback session on that on the evening of the 30th of this month. So that will be from 6 till 8. So that will be going out with some publicity after tomorrow, as soon as I can get talking to Claire about that.
Thank you. Thank you,
Is there
Chairman.
anything else you think we ought to be doing? You've got a chance.
Yeah, I have got a long list. No.
Or you can always email.
Can I just ask, I haven't seen anything on an agenda or anywhere else about the village design statement, so it would be useful for whoever's working on it to actually report back to the parish council about the progress.
That wouldn't
Well,
actually
it would be nice to understand where we're at now if we were going to have so perhaps later in
Councillors' issues.
councillors' issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could have an update on that, that would be really useful. Thank you.
If Meg said he got a leaflet or something about the design statement,
No, not about the village design statement, it was the one about the neighbourhood plan. Yes, that was in the summer, that was
Were
in
they
the summer.
done house to house, or were they just?
Yeah, it was house to house early on in the year, yes, early on in the year. And we've got the dates up on the notice boards, yeah, and on the website.
Yes, Mark?
I can't quite find an answer to this online. I'm hoping experience on the council will know. So this, I was looking at the Linton Rec thing, and it reminded me that underneath the Mugga there is actually a Roman villa. Is there any compulsion for this to be listed with Historic England? I mean, how do things get on to Historic England? Because I've been looking at all the Historic England scheduled monuments for Sawston recently, and it's just, this one isn't listed, and it's been there, it's known for a while, so I don't know whether the archaeological department are supposed to talk to it, or is it up to planners to do it, or, because I also haven't seen anything in the neighbourhood or local plan about historic scheduled monuments that are within the parish council area, and we have several.
Where do you get that information from? Because I mean, I have the proceedings of the Cambridge Archaeological Society, Cambridge Antiquarian Society, and I haven't seen any publication in there in the last 20 years about a Roman villa in that area.
It was,
and also
he's from, well, I won't say Clare, but he might not be Clare. It's certainly one of them. I'll speak to him again.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see that, because I suspect that significant damage has already been done, because you're aware that there's a 12,000 volt cable that's laid underneath there.
Yes, because whenever that was laid, that's why I was talking to him to start with, and he said it was below that, so it was all right. He said he was happier that it was there, but I never saw any listing of it anywhere, and I was just wondering, how does it get listed at Historic England for buried scheduled monuments?
If you can email us that information, what your information is,
I'll
we'll definitely look into that. Excellent. Anybody else? No? In that case, I will move on. Right, if we can go to declarations of interest for this meeting, please.
I live next door to the Chalice Garden, and there's something about trees.
Nothing.
No, I'd like a bit more light at this time of year.
Start off as you mean to carry on, eh? Right, to confirm the minutes of the full Parish Council meeting held on the 11th of December. Right, starting by number 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160, 161, 162, 163, 164, 165, 166, you can call house at any time. 167.
Is there a typo in 166? Was that circus changed its name yet again?
It's
It
a
was
different
Circus
service.
Tirana at one time.
Different name.
Different name.
Right, okay.
Thank
That's interesting.
168.
No, time was
Oh,
I had to put one in. I got to the end.
169, 170, 171, 172, 173, 174, 175 and 176. Can I have a proposal whether that is a true Neil and a seconder? Jane. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Right, what I'd like to do is bring item 185 on the agenda forward, because we have got a representative from Footprints that's came to discuss this with us. So can I take a vote that we suspend standing orders? For and Tony, all those in favour? So if you'd like to come forward. Can you give us your full name, please?
Yes, Gordon Heald. I'm a proposed trustee of Footprints Cafe Limited, which is becoming a charity in due course. This obviously takes some time. I'm sure that members are well aware of the former Owl Cafe and its change through Papworth Trust, and without boring you with all that detail, you will also be aware that the Papworth Trust pulled out of that cafe with effect from the end of May last year. This left quite a significant gap in the provision for the learning disadvantaged, and also for those who like to go to a community cafe and enjoy a little bit of refreshment with a good chat with friends and the like. You know, there's a lot going on there. The cafe isn't just a cafe, it's a training centre for the learning disadvantaged, and the church were really very concerned, having had 2 years discussion with Papworth, to then be faced suddenly with them telling us that they were departing. So we worked hard and made an arrangement through the Footprints Cafe Limited so that the work that had been going on with Owl and Papworth could continue in a similar fashion. And the intention is to do that as long as possible. There have been significant set-up costs arising from the change from Papworth to its present status, and I listed these on an application to you for a grant for assistance with that. The overall costs, assuming volunteer labour gets charged at sort of a minimum rate, is something in the order of £10,000, and of course to suddenly have to find that kind of money is extremely difficult. So we've put together this claim asking if the council would kindly consider, I believe it's what you call a section 137, but I'm not au fait with these regulations. We put together a request that you consider grant funding our needed, very much needed, acoustic reduction material. This would come at a purchase price of £2,400, £2,450.40, and we would be able to use volunteers to install it, but we would be very grateful if you would be able to consider that capital cost.
Can I just clarify that your total cost does include VAT?
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need to make sure we're clear on that.
And we are not able to claim VAT back, therefore it's a cost to either the cafe or the church to find. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to go on all night, but I guess you've got to other things to do.
Sorry. Right, we've taken on. Are you going to sit down?
Yeah, sure.
I now open it to members. Any comments?
I think it's something we'd really like to
We would
support.
actually need
I
time.
think it's really important for Salisbury and for all the people who use our cafe. It's footprints, and it's quite a big part of the community. So this comes out of S137 donations, does it?
Yeah.
What's our balance like?
We don't have that funding. We can meet half of it.
Yeah. So this is basically coming out of our sort of charity fund.
Until that's what we've got until obviously the end of March, the financial year.
Tony?
Yeah, well, I was a trustee of Owl for a number of years, and I fully support the work that's being done now to continue the good work that was done then. But we are towards the end of the financial year. We have a new financial year starting in April, and we could make a donation this financial year, with some more to come in the next financial.
Possible, yeah.
Yes.
That is true.
They'd have to make obviously another application.
Just one question for the applicants. How far are you from achieving charitable status? Because presumably once you do so, you'll be able to, you'll not be liable for VAT.
We're really at the very early stages of applying. I don't know how long this takes. I'm told 3 months would be a record and 6 months is quite likely.
Right. I mean, is there any chance of postponing the work until you have that?
Well, the work could be postponed, but all the time it's not installed, then the discomfort experienced by people with hearing difficulties is continuing. And we're concerned that this is a problem for the staff, for the volunteers, for the students, and for the users of the cafe.
Thank you.
I think one of the reasons that ours has been a success in the past, and one of the reasons they've managed to salvage it and turn it into footprints, is because they just get on and do things.
Yes. Yeah.
And don't sit around waiting for
Yes.
an optimum situation to develop. And I think if the team weren't like that, we wouldn't actually have a cafe there anymore. So although I'm sure they're just as galled as we would be to spend an extra 20% on that you might have got back if you'd waited 6 months to a year, I'm sure that it makes sense not to do that.
Blind.
I like a suggestion, and seeing as everybody seems to be quite supportive of the cafe and its continuation, and if we've got money to contribute to half the request, which would be £1,225, can we do that? And if you want to come back in the new financial year with another application, maybe we could reconsider it then.
That's possible.
I mean, there is an alternative, of course, because presumably, I think there's a limit of 1,000 now, isn't there, on a community chest grant. I'm just wondering whether if they wanted to go quicker than that.
There are certainly other alternative. We already spoke, I think, briefly. For example, Tesco Bags for Life scheme, for example, is one area of potential funding. So there are other potential sources of funding for you towards this.
But would the district council support something like this?
I don't know. I can't speak on their behalf.
You could carry some significant influence, though, couldn't you?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, can I ask Paul, A, have you thought of applying for other grants, and B, have you got lots of other work in the pipeline that's going to need other financing, which you could use, you could apply to other bodies for?
We're constantly surprised by bills which creep in. The dishwasher is going to cost some thousands, we think, to either repair or replace. However, we haven't anything concrete at the moment. These things do come along and bite us. We have thought of applying to other people for grants, but it's very confusing for grant aiding bodies if there's a possibility of money coming from somewhere else as to whether they pay this much or that much. So, could I ask a question in that if the council is able to fund part of the cost now and would consider a future cost, would you consider that against the work having been done now and a loan being raised for the difference, and then ask?
Tony, we'll take that on. I'll ask you a question.
I think the question for us now is what can we do here and now?
Yes.
And if we've got the funding for half the funding on this, then I propose that that's what we grant to them tonight.
Yes.
And I think it's important that the parish council does that first of all, because that shows that the parish supports it, and therefore that makes it easier to go to other bodies to see if they will support it as well. And then for the new financial year, we've got another opportunity should you wish to come back to us.
And
Hold
technically,
on, sorry.
Sorry, I'd really like to suggest that we try and scrape together the full amount from reserves, partly because I think it's going to make life difficult for them if we only pay half, but also I think This is a sort of village facility and a group of people who we very rarely give any support to. You know, we're spending thousands of pounds supporting football clubs and cricket clubs and other things like that. We do very little as a parish council to support adults with learning difficulties or the kind of young parents and pensioners who go to the cafe. So I think it would be really good if we could actually scrape the money together. Is it actually possible to do that?
We've got the money in reserves.
Yes.
There's two things that are coming out of this. Number one, if we go through the S137, we wouldn't be able to give you the money towards the VAT. So you'll be £400 short. So the 12, that would bring that down to £1,000 basically to meet you halfway with that. As to the suggestion made by Beck of giving you the full amount through reserves and showing support is, as much as I like the suggestion, my concern of that would be, are we setting a precedent where other people could come forward to us and say, well, you did this for her and you supported her, you gave full amount. So I'm actually quite reserved in doing that. I think we've got to be very careful on not showing favouritism to any particular cause. We have to be completely open and transparent and show that, because if you do it for one, you're going to have to do it for another.
But I think we judge each case on its merits, and so, you know, in response to that, I would say, no, there isn't anything else like this in Salisbury, and that's why I'm suggesting that we give it more support. I know what you mean, but I think...
Well, I'll give you an example. We had a similar scenario with Icknield School, and we didn't support them, which was, it was Icknield School. We didn't support Icknield School.
But that was a sort of funding conflict there.
Go on.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that there's a couple of things here. One's the absolute amount, one is the subject matter of the application, the sound insulation, which in itself is not, I mean, this is not a critical thing, it's to improve the circumstances. It is echoing there, no doubt, so it would improve the circumstances. But I share some of the reservations of Kevin on the absolute amount that we're giving, because we don't often give that sort of total amount away. And I think we would be better and wiser to do it in two chunks rather than in one. And we can't bind our future council to make another decision in the future. We can take the decision today and then come back and reassess it in a new financial year. I think is a wiser, particularly in terms of setting precedents.
Can I just clarify what I was saying? Because I talked about half the amount, but I was thinking half the amount in terms of 2,400. I'm taking your point about the VAT and not paying that, but I would clarify my suggestion by suggesting that we offer a grant of £1,200.
Okay.
That was what I was suggesting.
Yes, okay, so that's
Fine.
I was just going to ask the clerk what our legal limit for 137 payments is, because there's a maximum sum based on the size of the vehicle,
that's
isn't
fine.
there? I think we're well within that,
We're
aren't we?
within that, yeah.
I think we are, yes, yeah.
Right, so we've had a proposal slightly amended from Brian. It's now £1,200. That amendment, I'm sure you're happy with it now being 1,200, Brian, you have no issues.
So, right, hold on.
Well, if it was 50%, it would be
1225.
1225
1225.
and 20 pence if we really.
So what do you want to propose, Brian?
Yes, I would.
The
We do
1225.
50% of the.
You seconded that, Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so we have that proposal and that seconded. Can I have a vote of who's in favour of that proposal?
Thank you.
Okay, so what we then would do is come back, means coming back for the remainder of the sum.
Thank you very much indeed. Could you possibly cope with the question that I made? If we raised a loan for the difference to get the job done in one, it would be more economic than having two purchases. And would you be prepared to consider effectively, therefore, a retrospective grant for the remainder?
trouble is you can't do that, because you don't know who's going to be, it might be a different council.
Yeah, that's the trouble. We have, going back to what Brian said, is we have to be very careful on those grounds, because we can't, set something in motion for future councils to be
That's fine.
counted.
That's fine.
Even though you
It might be that you can now go to other bodies and say, the parish council is giving us this much, because then they won't be chipping you to get more of it. Joe, would you be able to help with community chest grants and that kind of thing, or is there something
District council.
So Claire's a sort of waving her hand.
I'm waving if I can speak, because certainly community chest grants at district council will be available for sums up to £1,000, and I think this would probably fit in the criteria, but would be considered by the committee that looks at it, and it would definitely be looked on more favourably because you've had money received from the parish council. So it's worth it.
Thank you, Carl.
Assuming that we have a scenario where this money was used to complete this particular project, this is only part of what we want to do. There are other projects.
Yes.
If you could raise the other money for this project, you might be coming up with one of the other aspects of what you want to do.
Yes. Thank you.
Right, okay, there we go. So we've agreed to 50%, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, coming back to the agenda, planning applications and associated matters. S162162518 outline planning for the 46 dwellings, as I said, that's going to be deferred because that will go on planning on the 22nd, is it, Jan?
Yes.
On the 22nd, due to the fact that we haven't got the correct information. So moving on to the next application is S432918 outline planning, permission for at the Welcome Trust Genome Campus, Cambridge Road, Hinkson. Do I have any comments, please? Jan?
Well, I'll start it off if you like. Yeah, I've had a look at this, and I think David raised it before Christmas, didn't you? This is a very big development. It's a very big footprint opposite the current Genome campus. It includes 1,500 homes.
No, dwellings.
Dwellings, thank you.
Use the word dwellings, can't use homes.
Okay, thank you, correcting me. Third of which will be for rent. Build heights up to 20 metres, I think. It's outline at the moment, isn't it? So presumably there'll be more information coming. I'd quite like to know how the parish council would like to deal with this. It would be very nice, for example, to have a representative from the Welcome Trust come to speak to, say, planning and environment about this particular application and what their timeframes and plans are, because it is going to be very big and is going to impact particularly on transport.
It's been scheduled to 4th of February.
Yes.
4th of February.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could invite to the 22nd. You could invite to the 22nd.
That would be really good. if
Yes,
we
I
could do
mean,
that.
I think there are some issues which probably only the Welcome Trust could answer, and
Yeah.
there are a number of, there are several queries I raised about obviously transport is a major issue. Another one I think is precisely how the housing has been managed. I remember there being quite a long debate over this in relation to Eddington, which is a very similar development on the north side of Cambridge, and that is that if you have housing which is effectively tied to particular employment, does that have a potential to feed into our housing list of people who are made redundant and are forced to leave their dwelling? And I know there's quite a bit of concern about this in the city, and I think it's certainly an issue we ought to raise. The other issue around housing is that approximately a third of this is for sale, and I'd be very interested to know what legal instrument they're proposing to use to ensure that a freehold house is only occupied by employees of trust and would be vacated if their employment ceased, particularly as this seems to be aimed at the older members on site, so presumably when they retire, they would no longer be able to occupy those houses, or would they if they were freehold? And the thing that concerns me is we haven't now that there is the historical anomaly in South Cambs, in which some years ago, and I think in fact some of these go back to before the Second World War, of agricultural tenancies, which means you can only occupy a house either freehold or as a tenant if you're engaged in agriculture. They're an absolute pain because the demand is not there, because the circumstances have changed, and over a period of 30, 40 or 50 years, who knows what the situation will be at Welcome, for example. They're virtually unsaleable with those restrictions on them, and I would hate to land a future council however far into the future with that problem. So I think those are issues really which only Welcome can answer. I mean, I reserve my judgment on them, and they may have a satisfactory way around it, because I think they're questions which need to be asked.
Yeah, just to respond to that, I think I mean, it's a perfectly reasonable concern, but the 1,500 dwellings, when they're talking about increasing the workforce to over 6,000 people up from 2.5, I think, at the moment, means that I would suggest that demand will still outstrip supply for housing. The big advantage of it, and I'm relatively neutral about this, I mean, it's good for economic development, clearly. That site will grow with more people being able to work there. It won't be just Welcome, there are already other bodies on that site. So the same question will pertain, in other words, how they're going to manage either the tenancy or the sale of those homes. But I don't think demand is likely to be a problem.
Before we go any further with this, I think the issue is, due to the fact there are many questions, and for me, my particular issue is the infrastructure and obviously highways. As we know, the 505 is gridlocked now. So what I am going to recommend is that we invite the Genome campus to the planning committee, and you'll be more than welcome to come on and have your discussion. If you have any questions, I would suggest that you look at the application and obviously come forward with your questions. Or if you want, yeah, that goes for all of us.
If you have questions,
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
So, Tony?
Yeah. This is a major application, and just a little while ago we had another major application that was about the Agri-Tech Hub. When we had the Agri-Tech Hub, we had Emma Fletcher came to the Parish Council meeting and did talk to us about the issues and was able to answer questions, and I think it'd be better to make a response from an informed perspective, and therefore I would support different.
I think what we will do is on that particular planning meeting is we'll open that to all councillors, so all councillors can attend and make representation.
And if there are some specific questions that people have, we could give those questions to just so they could come together.
Email these questions that I can...
Yeah, because I think the question about houses being tied to employment might be a complicated one, if that's what they're thinking too.
Well, that's what we're saying in housing state.
Okay, so very quickly, Bon, yeah.
So, one of the things that we might want to be asking, and this is an agenda item for tonight, so you're trying to wrap this up. But for example, the whole point of the 1,500 houses being adjacent to the site is that so people won't have to travel to work. But in contrast to that, if there's only 1,500 houses, if there were two per house, that's 3,000 people. There's another 3,000 plus jobs then can be covered there. And so the impact on the traffic, particularly in an already congested environment, is absolutely critical. As it was for everything.
And you potentially have 5,000 houses adjacent to the site.
Okay, so we're all happy with that coming back to the plan on the 22nd, and all are invited. Alright?
Yeah.
Right, so moving on to the tree application S468418 TC Sycamore Fell Walnut reduced spread of lower and middle crown on north side only by 3 metres. Taper into upper crown to shape at Chalice Trust land between recreation ground and behind 68 Hay Street. Comments, please.
I can't actually do this, but what does 3 sycamore fell walnut mean?
I think it means fell and walnut, reduced spread, because when you have a look at the application.
Oh, I
I
see.
think it should be a comment.
Actually, the application is for the 3 sycamores to be felled, and for the walnut, a reduced spread of lower and middle
Well,
ground.
that's fine then, as long as I'd be more than happy about them felling walnut, but
Yeah.
anyone doesn't want to chop down sycamores, aren't they?
Yeah. Shall I,
But-
can I
You can.
propose that
Shall I second that? Bex?
That's
accept
it.
All those in favour?
Yeah.
Right, are you voting on this one?
There's no voting.
Are you going to stick to your declaration?
Yeah, that was
Okay, no problem. Right, next item is information only. S450218 LD lawful development, certificate of lawful development for proposed single-storey rear extension at 29 Brookfield Road. Then there's a discharge of condition, two discharges of condition.
What does certificate of lawful development mean?
I'll leave that to him.
Well, yes. Well, but basically, as you're aware, a certain amount of development is allowed on permitted development.
Yeah.
A certificate of lawful development is something which a householder might request in order to ensure a future vendor that they actually, or they didn't need planning permission, should that question be
Right, we
answered.
get notification for every single one of those. Why didn't we did?
Well, it's only information.
I think
I don't know,
that's
I've seen
I don't think get many of them
Yes,
to
yeah.
worry about.
So it's only for information, because
It
it's a
is.
technical issue for the plan.
Yeah.
to
Yes,
decide,
it's just,
do they need plans to
Yeah.
apply or
Oh,
not?
I understand what it is, but I just thought the number of people getting them, I mean, we don't actually normally see them.
Yeah.
mm,
Then we got discharge of conditions on source and trade, discharge of conditions on source and trade park, noted. Right, the accounts of the month for December. Unless there's anything that jumped out, anyone can I have a proposer? Jane, seconded by David. All those in favour? Thank you very much.
Just so
Sorry.
Right, to discuss the ownership of Linton Way recreation ground. I'm sure you've all seen the response.
Chair, I wasn't, I haven't had time to look at that, so can you tell me what the response was?
well, yes, and also, I made the point that because it's a legal green space, it will be protected. And there's a case at Cotton which was determined on the 14th of November by the Planning Committee, in which the sole objection was local green space. It was the erection of a nursery, and the Planning Committee obviously took a view that it was a very special circumstance against obvious recommendation. So they are. I think officers must have been quite spooked by that, because all of a sudden this is sort of dragging up.
I don't think it was, I
I
don't think it was spooked by it at all. They didn't appear to be spooked in any way. On site already.
spooking.
Go on, Kath.
Yes, I mean, I don't completely understand that last point that's been made, because I'm still not quite sure of what the advantage is for the parish council in having.
I think we would be very simplified the process
It
of
would.
building stakeholder.
That was how that was the context in which it arose.
So it would be the fact that we can't go bypass the planning committee, can we? Because if we propose a structure that requires planning permission,
No.
we will still have to do that.
So that has to go through the whole procedure, but it just speeds
We have
everything
to
up.
have planning permission whether we own the land or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, that's right, yes. And are there any cons to it then? Are there any disadvantages? Are there additional costs for the parish council
Well,
in
there'll
enacting
be
those?
a legal cost, yes,
a legal
transferring
cost?
the freehold, yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be vast, I mean, you're probably talking about hundreds.
Yeah. So there
Well,
is
we
some
maintain
paperwork.
it anyway.
We maintain it anyway.
Yes, yes, but as far as ongoing costs, I mean, the situation is exactly the same.
Yeah.
So what Stephen Reid is asking is for more information about why the council wishes to acquire the freehold.
Yeah.
So we need to think of some wording.
Yeah, it's more information than just a bit.
To provide more knowledge.
If you want a skate park, there you go, send it back.
I mean, we haven't, yeah, some of them.
Sorry, can I,
We haven't, in our original letter, said that one of our reasons for wanting to have it is because we pay for the maintenance of it anyway, which was our point.
the only advantage that I can see in this owning it is that we don't have to then in the future refer back to the district council if we want to make any changes, if we want to do any other work on the property and so on. And so if for me it's an administrative burden that you've got two parties involved, both the parish council and the district council, in managing that land, and one owner simplifies that process. I think that's the significance of it. Otherwise, there isn't very much, because the district council is very unlikely to object to any of the proposals that come from the parish about the usage of the land.
Wouldn't the best thing to actually be up front and say, because we want to build a skate park on it and we think it's going to be much simpler if it comes through us and we don't have to go through you as well?
I think,
We haven't actually made that decision yet.
no, I think I would probably go, use the word must, what mine's just said, in that, no, we're reducing the administrative burden.
Well, that's all we are doing.
And that's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just
Because as Gemma has said before, we still need to apply for planning permission to build the skate park anyway, so that's not, it doesn't have any advantage or disadvantage as far as that's concerned.
Can I ask a question? Do we have any other local green spaces that we don't own?
Not as far as I'm aware.
So Mill Lane's our spots,
Orchard Park, do we?
No, there are some.
Oh, look, we do that, but the
allotments,
land, we read off.
yes, we do, yes.
There are some of the LGSs were changed to that new designation, weren't they, in the local plan? So
Yes, they were.
The Vauxhall
The Vauxhall will be one, yeah, yes, we don't own that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
There are some that aren't in our ownership.
Oh, yes.
Well, I was wondering if another point to make would be that the majority of recreation grounds are already owned by the parish council. To have this within our ownership would enable us to be more strategic in our decisions about what
Good point.
happens with the green space. I don't know. If that's
And of course, as the
One conversation, please.
I mean, as the lease progresses to its end, it becomes progressively difficult to raise funds for any work you might want to do on that. So that's a situation you remember we have with Spices. When we only had a short lease, we were unable to raise funding for the pavilion until we acquired the freehold.
Well, that seems a point worth making. We'd like to sort it out now rather than leaving it until
I
later.
mean, 58 years is a long time, but it goes remarkably quickly, I'm sure.
For some of us, quicker. Well, okay, so Tony.
I'm surprised by the tone of this response. Suggested that you were on to request much greater detail and support of why the parish council wished to acquire the freehold. There have been a number of parish councils which have requested from the district council to take ownership of their land. I'm thinking of the recreation ground in Abington was just about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was just felt that ownership closer to the actual site was much better. Why should the district council? When the parish is here, it's a parish council recreation grounds. I'm surprised that we've been asked for more support in detail, and I just thought it was obvious.
Well, yes, I mean, over a period of,
Does Claire want to see it?
Oh, right.
Respond.
So, yes, that's what I thought you speak. But I just going to make the point, there has already been one major reorganisation, I think, since this, probably not since this lease was signed, but certainly very close to it, when South Cambridgeshire and Chesterton Rural District Councils combined to form one South Cambridgeshire in 1972, wasn't it? And over 58 years, there could be any number of local government reorganisations, and so where would the lease end up eventually? I mean, if, for example, the Unitary Authority was created,
So,
if a regional East Anglian Authority was created, I mean, you can't predict the future.
We want to make all these points then.
Yeah,
Do we want to answer his last point as well? I tend to agree with Tony. I think it's a remarkably snotty letter.
it is, yes, yeah. Well, that's why I thought they'd been spooked by the Cotton decision.
it did take some tracing to get a response in the first place. I just think that we should respond with all the comments that have been made, barring the skate park. And when we get a response, we'll bring it to the next meeting. Okay?
Well, whatever, when the applicants brought their district council to take part in the legal fees.
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
could we cite that as an example? Because that's a very local example.
Great Abington or just Abington?
It's Abington's, it's shared.
Okay, all happy with that?
Right, Chair, just one point. I will ask Mr. Reid why the tone of his letter was in the way it was.
Keep that. No problem at all. All right, to discuss the works to improve the cycle path on Bayburn Road. I had a meeting with, I can't remember his name now, who was it? Mike Davies from Highways.
Cycling team leader man.
He's the cycling team leader for the county highways. And one of the things that if you remember, I did bring up that to be looking at through S106 monies and other monies, rather than Parish Council having to pay, is to have our paths upgraded. And some to be path upgraded, some to be dual paths and cycleways. He came out and had a site visit. The bottom line of it is he came out and, as we're all aware of, the Bridge End Cottage has been sorted out and upgraded so that it can be a bit wider and tidier and safer. But he also said, had a look at, you know where the cycleway finishes on the boundary of Sawston at Bayburn? He said that they could potentially expand that to take it up to the zebra crossing, and that would be, that could either come out of the Greenways Quick Win Fund, or it could be, there may be some spare cash coming from the Bridge End Cottage. So what they are going to be doing is looking at basically expanding that cycleway up to the zebra crossing to make it a little bit safer along that road. What will happen then is, if it's all agreed, is it will go out to public consultation and ask people what their opinions and what they think about it, and then we will look at potential other projects.
Will it be sort of like section pathway, cycleway? Bear in mind that's a route used for people to walk to school and everything, so will it be there'll be separate bits, and it'll be a grass version.
It'd be, well, basically, yeah, the grass version before it can be going. Okay?
That is the zebra crossing closest to Bayburn.
Yes. Yeah. Not the one the far end. No, the one the closest to Bayburn. What I call the Nil School zebra crossing.
One of the issues that you've got with that is that, of course, you've got Linton Way to cross. And the typical problems with junctions on cycleways and having to give way. So what you'll find is that in practical terms, people will come off the cycleway, come onto the road, because then they've got priority. That's what happens at a lot of junctions on the route between Sawston and Woolwich College and Stapleford. And I just wanted to throw in an alternative suggestion about where we might spend money on improving pathways. because we've had another case this week of people falling over in the dark because of uneven...
Most recently this week.
Yes, next week,
Is that not what I said?
Yeah, cool.
Oh, okay.
No.
But we've got lots of cases of people falling over on uneven roadways and pathways in the village. And I'm just wondering whether this should be the priority for the county, spending money on our behalf when there's other more serious deficiencies in the surface of the roads and pathways elsewhere in the village.
I thought there was talk previously of the money from when they build houses being used to upgrade some of the footpaths into cycle paths. Like church, we have new cycling pathways to use the schools, so that they're going to be upgraded now.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that there was an audit done of the pathways during last year, wasn't there? Because I saw the guy out with his little device for measuring the bumpiness of the path. And so the audit's been done. The county know where the poor paths and roadways are. I'm just questioning.
The thing is one of the things that we got which was made when I first brought this up was it was through a scheme, a specific scheme. We can use S106 money for specific projects. And one of the great things that they've been looking at is throughout Cambridgeshire, not just this area, is to get people out of their cars and onto bikes and walking. So this is a project that will help to encourage that. When it comes to the public consultation, those comments that you've made could actually be put into that public consultation at that point. But I think, as it stands at the moment, because Mike Jones said no, we raised the question about Linton Way and everything. He seemed to think that there wouldn't be an issue with that. And that's why he only suggested going up to the zebra crossing, because he noticed the drop curves and everything else, and he said, no, we need to go out and get public opinion. So let's put a small section in, see what people think about it, and if they're happy, we can look at it, the bigger picture, and if they're not, then we can look at how we can use the funds in other ways. One of the things that he did say was, when it come down to, because I suggested looking at the High Street, and he basically said that was really a non-starter. The best project for that would be to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and that would naturally slow people down.
Actually, there's an alternative for the High Street, because the government is talking about a High Street refurbishment programme.
Yes, they are.
Social funding. So that's one that we should really keep a close eye on in case it's something that we can avail ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, since the neighbourhood plan got referred to earlier, one of the main things that people did mention at all these sessions we had in the summer when we met with people at the different faiths was the state of the footpaths and the roads. And I know a lot of work did get done last year about filling in potholes, etc. But given that we've actually got two authorities involved in maintaining the pavements and the highways, because of course isn't the mechanical cleaning South Cams? Isn't mechanical
That's just the cleaning.
I was going to raise cleaning because I think cleaning is an issue to do with keeping the footpaths and the roads safe. I mean, I've just reported the state of Church Lane because there is such a lot of leaf debris, and that doesn't help with keeping them safe and stopping trips and falls. I was going to say that I think the parish council needs to keep an eye on all these things as a project, because it is part of improving the general environment of the village. It's about street maintenance as well as pavement maintenance, as well as the zoning, the cycle paths, the potholes which are beginning to appear. All of those things we need to keep an eye on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you.
What stage is this proposal at? Is this basically 186, a proposal from you that we use the money to do this work, and everybody else is saying that they would rather spend it on other things? I think if I was going to agree to spend the sum of money on the cycle path, I'd like to see even a sketch plan of where it is you're actually talking about and what it's proposed to do and some more specific costings. But was this just a fairly vague
Funding is going to come from the Greenways project, so its money's already there.
I see. So you're suggesting applying for funding to cover this work?
No, the funding is already there. I've put a strategic plan into or suggested a strategic plan to the highways when we had the site visit, and he said he could probably transfer some of that funding, so there'd be no expense to the council or the pushers.
Okay,
So basically we're getting an extension of the way of looking at it is we're going to have that extension from there to the central crossing free.
Okay, I think all I would do is back up Brian's point that joint rooms are the crucial part of cycle paths because they're where anybody who's a more confident cyclist comes off the cycle path and goes onto the road because you've got right of way there.
The lycra wearers. The lycra wearers.
No, just confident and competent cyclists, which cycle paths are not designed for because they're designed to get people out of their cars who wouldn't otherwise cycle.
Just to lighten the tone.
Right, so it was put down to discuss. I'm assuming.
Yeah. So what you're saying is before anything's done, there'll be a public consultation.
Now, after they put the cycleway in up to the zebra crossing, then they're going to go to public consultation.
They're going to ask people about the work after
they're going to do the work.
That seems a bit...
We haven't agreed it, but you have on our behalf.
I haven't agreed anything. What they said is they...
Sorry, I'm now confused because
what they said was they would come along and they would put the cycleway in and then go out to public consultation to see if people liked it.
To then extend it.
To extend.
How much money is it going to cost them?
Nothing. Next to nothing.
No, somebody's paying for this, and it's basically our money because we're all taxpayers. We can't just say, oh, we'll just throw some money at it, build it, and then ask people if it's all right.
So you're against. So what you're saying is then you're against it. Are you?
I'm saying if they're
you're against.
I'm saying if they're going to spend public money on it, they need to talk to some cyclists first.
Well, due to the fact that the bloke is a cyclist and the county council lead on cycling, he will be contacting, I'm sure the other person he will talk to is Jim Chisholm as well, to have a really good feedback on that. So the bottom line is we've got a chance here for no expense to the parish council or anything through the Greenways project of getting a small extension, and then we go out to public consultation to see if people like it. Yes or no?
It's back to front.
Well, then you don't get anything done otherwise. So if you want something done, well, we can keep going out to public consultation, and we'll be here this time next year or the year after. So we're discussing it. So do you want to? The bottom line of this is, I'll take it to the vote. That's what's going on forward.
Kevin, if the county council are going to spend money that they can ill afford in the current situation,
Coming from the Greater Cambridge Partnership Greenways project. It's not coming from the
GCT money.
Yeah, so which they're going to help. So they have some money. There's some money that's not been used that they can use.
And they want to spend it before March, I suppose, do they? Or April.
I'm just surprised they can do this without public consultation. That's a relatively short period.
Or not even, it doesn't need to be that public, it just needs them to actually arrange to come and talk to them also. I appreciate that, yeah, your highways guy, if he leads the cycle team, must know a bit about actually cycling, and if he's talking to Jim Chisholm, that's great. But it's the people who actually use that cycleway day in, day out who will have a better idea of where money would best be spent to improve it.
Could we not invite this cycle chap to come and talk to the parish councillor in that case? Because it seems like we're just going to keep going back and forth otherwise.
Yeah, probably the best way forward.
Alright,
there have been
some major schemes in Cambridge, for example, down Hills Road, and there's also some proposals for down Hinton Way, is it? No, it's Hinton Way. And so that's like a strategic route, and there's been widespread public consultation on that. What we're talking about here, I think, is there a case for a cycleway right down firstly from the 30-mile-an-hour sign, right down, say, to the traffic lights? And that seems to be an important principle. Would we support that as a scheme, and I think, in a sense, let's get Mike out here and talk, because that's, either we're going towards that or we're saying no to that.
Yeah,
But we need some public consultation.
In that vein, so for example, you mentioned Hills Road, and they've now got footpaths, green verges, they've got bus parks along there, but they've got substantial cycleways because they've reduced the width of the road. Now it's possible, for example, to do something similar on Babraham Road. This is actually quite, with the verges and the paths, it's quite wide, and you know, an alternative to the suggestion of just extending it across the pathway and the verge is to actually use part of the road and create a next to the road pathway for cycles, which might be better used because it then avoids crossing the junctions or having to stop at the junctions or the give way notices, which, for example, that was a problem with the Babraham Road 1307 in front of the houses. So they did the cycleway, but then they give way to the cycles so people could come out of their driveways, which was a problem. And that's the sort of problem that you continue to have at Babraham Road. If you brought it further down.
So my dad says on about Hills Road as well, so he's fully aware of
It's a very...
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just say, I agree with, actually with what Rob has said. I mean, most people on the parish council obviously haven't got a clue about any of these proposals. And it would seem helpful if we actually had something in writing, some documentation to show what is actually proposed, you know, in terms of the actual map of Silston, and then what might be the linkages throughout the rest of the village. I'm more than happy for that to happen at next planning. Yeah.
If you've got any kind of sketch plan, then we can distribute it to people who know.
I think that would be really helpful.
Or if he's able to come, and it's more of a step to come out here and us try and get people in the village who want to discuss it together to meet it. But yeah.
Okay, we'll bring it to Barnstable, probably.
Yeah.
Well, if there's some money that's got to be spent by the end of the financial year, I think we at least ought to move fairly quickly.
Yes.
And I would therefore suggest that we invite Mike to do it.
Yes.
I was going to say,
Exactly.
Alright?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next item, to discuss the village sign.
Sorry, I have to postpone until February. There really hasn't been time since the December meeting to do anything about it at all. But I will try and put it in my diary now to try and organise a meeting.
Can we have something though in February, because it is beginning to like drag on a bit, isn't it?
That's fine, if anyone else wants to take it on.
You said you wanted to do it.
No, if I can get a meeting with the person I need to see, then I will.
Okay, anyway, thank you very much. Remedial work required following recent routine inspection.
This was the fire stuff. We had the survey, the bulkheads and that, and when I had the quote, I only had the one quote last time, so contacted 3 companies. One company won't actually do it unless we've got a maintenance contract with them. And then the 2 quotes we've got are for £1,504 plus VAT and £1,185 plus VAT. And that's to replace the bulkheads in the main office. There was some here in the pavilion, and the extinguisher and fire blankets at Mill Lane.
So
They're all recommendations.
Yes.
What was 400 on the last?
Yeah.
And the other?
And they've all had exactly the same.
Well,
They've had
that fits to the standards, don't they?
Yes.
yeah.
Can I propose that we accept the lower?
Do I have a second? Jane? All those in favour?
Everyone, yeah, thank you.
Right, that was straightforward. Right, update from county councillors. Not a lot to say really. We're in the middle of sorting out budgets and seeing what we can do with the budgets. There's, what was that one thing?
Can I ask if there's been any news on what's going on with Shire Hall?
What's going on with Shire Hall?
Yeah.
Regarding what the movement
Has there been any indication of who's more interested or what anybody offers in or?
No. There's a lot of comments going around about, there was looking at selling it. There is potential of keeping it, renting it or leasing it. The other two things that have been bandied around is potentially a hotel of some description or some form of residential unit. But nothing's been set in concrete, no decisions have been taken. The only thing is, I was going to mention, which we've deferred, is the Genome campus. Again, as I said, I'm concerned about the highway issues on that. That's it, really. We're really indeed talking about budget.
Is there any update on potholes, etc.?
Yeah, you'll see that they are doing, they quite regularly go out on Facebook and tweet and tell you how many potholes that they get done in a week or a day. They are still, I think that today I was told they are something like 600 and something behind schedule. But they obviously the main concern is that we don't get the beast from the east. But the thing is they're rapidly catching up with them, and they are getting actually on top of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Down to you, Brian. Or Claire, whoever.
Well, I think we mentioned to Claire that we haven't done anything in writing because since December we've been doing things like not very much council work. But there are Christmas and New Year and things. And, yeah. So just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. We've been on the site to Hutchings and Harding regarding the shed, the drying shed. There's an imminent decision going to have to be made about that. Nobody wants to maintain it. It's extremely physically insecure. It's only being held up by the scaffolding that surrounds it. And I think there have been at least 3, if not 4, attempts to come up with a viability plan for it. And nobody's managed to do so. So they'll be coming back before the planning committee to make a decision over that.
The owner of the site made lots and lots of different plans years and years ago, and English Heritage turned every single one of them down, and I think he spent quite a lot of money on trying to develop ideas. But they didn't want to compromise, and I think they've got no one to blame but themselves, basically. No, it's...
I'll point to that.
It's been long involved, it's been going on for years, 50 years.
Yeah, well, absolutely, but it's because they wouldn't compromise, and they wanted it preserved in its original state. You can't ask somebody to spend £250,000, £500,000 on a building that's got no practical use whatsoever except as some kind of historical relic. Because the ceiling heights are so low, you can't use it for anything else if you just but so you know, we've now effectively expired all the viability options, so there I mustn't predetermine these matters, but I think it may be coming to the end of a long saga.
I mean, as it was left last January, I mean, you can obviously update me on this, was that we were waiting for Hutchings and Hardings actually to put in applications to demolish it, which English Heritage had indicated that they wouldn't.
That's where we're at.
They've done that before because we at the Parish Council have actually approved that. We've given permission for it to be demolished in the past.
I think there's been so many involved parties because there's English or historic England as well as English heritage, and so
they had a last minute panic and flung a load of money at scaffolding, didn't they? When it was all too late. I think they really have behaved.
Well, they preserved it by record, to use their term.
Actually, that's also they have done something similar to a a scan
Yes.
of the whole thing, so it's recorded
Yeah.
in history, so that people can look at a 3D model online.
Mr. Chairman, is it inspected on an annual basis? Because under the dilapidating, ruinous building, am I right, Rich, someone could step in and deal with something like that if it came under dilapidated and ruinous building? That becomes the district council responsibility.
I think it's going to be resolved.
Yeah, I know, but I'm asking if the question, is it being annually inspected?
It's probably even more than that by English Heritage.
No, it
because
hasn't been annually inspected.
Has it not?
No. The bigger thing that came with it was when I got involved, and David's been involved a lot longer than I have, is basically Heritage England or English Heritage, whatever you want to call them, came along and said that the district council had a duty to do whatever it possibly could to preserve it, to look after it and do everything, of which I spoke to their legal team, and first comment I made to them was, well, had you listened 30 years ago, we wouldn't be having this meeting now. At that point she decided to shut up. And it was a case of, you created this problem, and it's now falling into disrepair. But I don't think you'll find it was actually, unless the Hutchins and Hardings did it themselves.
Well, my concern, if they did do an annual inspection, they would know what the likelihood of where it's likely to fall and where the dangers are.
I think as long as it's got
I was
scaffolding,
going to say, I won't do anything there.
it's opaque, although of course the scaffolding might be going to rust.
So there's no danger to any of those buildings that's outside the curtilage of that?
No, but I mean, there's only the scaffolding that's holding it up. I mean, took the scaffolding away.
It was probably less dangerous than it was before.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah.
So it's been resolved. Well, we're coming to
it's coming to the end of the saga.
Yeah.
Do we know what might be in its place if it is demolished?
Probably just an empty space, I would imagine.
I think Hutchins and Harding may have some idea what they may have a plan or something, but we don't know. The answer to your question is we don't know.
It'd be useful to know what that might be, because it might inform what's happening to it.
I mean, it could have been a village asset if they'd actually
Well, yes,
listened all that time ago.
The trouble is, it's the wrong shape. I mean,
Yeah, we're going around in circles now. Can we
Thank you. No, not quite. So, just so that everybody knows, there's some news, I think, that won't necessarily be news to everybody, but the spices site has recently been sold in toto. So, Northwest Biotherapeutics and associated companies, all owned by Lyndon Howes, who are responsible for the DC Vax brain tube vaccine that has had some reasonable results recently, but they got to the end of their money. The research went on longer than the money, and so they've sold Spicer Site for about £37 million to Huawei, the Chinese technology firm. And they haven't announced yet what they're going to do with the site, but they are a multi-billion-dollar company. Rather disappointingly for them, their chief executive was arrested in Canada with the threat of being extradited to...
Finance director.
There seems to be some history with spices.
What about the other Irish holdings?
Well,
because they have quite large holdings on the east side of the bypass as well, don't they?
So I understand it's their entire estate, and there is some suggestion that Huawei may be interested in getting involved in biotech. So that it may not just be a purchase and lease back of the premises there, which is run by Cognitive Bioscience, which is effectively a subsidiary of Northwest Biotherapeutics. So it's all quite complicated with our Parish, with the same ultimate ownership. But as a company of its size and international import, it will have a significant impact on the village.
Do you, just a very quick question, do you have a contact for the new company that's buying it.
Yes.
Because there's a person in the general public that would like to have that contact. Mark.
Yeah, sure.
Because there's an historic.
Second largest hill fort in
Yes, there is. Yes, and that's well recorded, I've got to say.
Someone to see it.
Continuous occupation from Mesolithic to early medieval. I think it's a very important site, actually.
So Mark would appreciate back to those.
But the economic significance of that purchase, at least in potential, is not just significant for the village, significant for the district, significant for the region, and it's significant for the national economy. Yeah. So we look forward to seeing what transpires, what comes out of that. But that's somebody with a lot of money. I mean, 37 million to them. It's not a lot. Research and development budget is currently, I think, running at something like 22% of profits being turned back into R&D. So there's huge money.
So presumably they would be able to fund the flyover over the railway, which was
Well,
in 98.
that's actually good news.
It really is a significant move. Arakaris and the associated Northwest Therapeutics had no money. They were constantly going out to try and raise more money to continue the research. And that's still dubious, but there was significant, and there have been significant improvements with people with otherwise fatal brain tumours that are alive 2 years after taking that therapeutic course.
And I think that's now been published in referee journals, not just in conference proceedings, which is the only problem.
Yes, but so certainly there's good news in both perspectives, and it looks as though Huawei are prepared to invest in the company that is already there as well. So that's great news. Very news.
Anything else?
Well, I think I'll leave it on that piece.
Sure, have any questions?
Yes. Just a question on a completely different topic. We all know about the local plan, in fact it's been approved, but originally it was the intention also to approve a sill regime at the same time. I know that was suspended for a long time, and I just wonder where South Cambs is up to with the sill, whether it's still being pursued or whether
the last time I asked,
yes.
It was still suspended, with a view to implementing it. But I know no more than that, and that was probably September time, I think, when we were talking about the adopted plan, to understand whether the SIL was going to be invoked, and basically at the moment it's still suspended with a view to introducing.
But you've no idea of timescales?
No. I will ask.
Okay,
Give you the answer.
Any more questions? No? Okay, right, thank you very much. Right, we've got nothing to add. Clairvoyance in
we've
there.
discussed it before, so it's
Okay.
been a quiet 4 weeks.
You got too much Christmas pudding, isn't it? Come on.
Not enough.
Right, correspondence. So councillors' issues and agenda items for the next meeting, starting with New Hill.
Nope.
Chloe.
I'll just update you on our little sign. It continues to flash green and sometimes red. I will move it as soon as I get permission from Mr. Balfour to put it on another website.
Tony?
Yes, I'd like to raise something I raised before, and that is that it didn't affect tonight's meeting, but when we have planning applications, it is really helpful to have plans in front of us, not only to help us, but also to help members of the public who are present. And I think we should see what we can do to make sure they're displayed.
Right.
Actually, I've got a bit of technology I can throw at that will make less wires involved. So there's a casting technology that actually for what you'd like to see will work. This screen in here is not really very big for everybody to see. So we might consider an alternative and bigger screen in here. If people, or a projector. I mean, I think a screen's probably easier to manage. But
I'm just looking for transparency and everything.
Yes.
But I agree. And the only reason I haven't done it recently is because of time constraints and fiddling about with wires. So we get.
I've got a question for you because in terms of there's 18 and 19, there's somebody all got responsibility to try and do something.
Oh, are you offering to look into that for me?
I'll be delighted to look into that for you.
Note, minute.
Yes.
What?
No, nothing.
Back.
Where have we got to in terms of having a look at our existing office to see whether we can actually go back there where we did have a nice set of share hands?
Well, I need to get quotes, but I'm waiting for a couple of builders to come in. The architect did speak to a couple and said, oh, they'll be in touch with you and they'll come and see you, but I've not heard yet, so it's for me to chase them now. But I think it might be a slow process, Vic. But yeah, no, I'm on it.
Just more ones. Concrete posts and grass verges. There's one outside number 20 Home Way that's got a big gap all the way around the bottom.
But they're not, but no, I think some of the residents put them in, or it could be county for, it's not.
It's county, or it would be county that put them in, or they could be, they are private.
Yeah.
We would have to check with that.
It's not safe, it's got a gap around the bottom. And parking, my favourite one. On Bacon Road at the football tournament on Saturday, they're parking on the zigzags, all the way up to the silver crossing.
They have to report it to the police.
Can I respond to that?
Of course you can.
Because we have at council with a little working group, task and finish group, to look at parking across the district. The Police and Crime Commissioner, Jason Abel-White, is very keen to lose responsibility for parking. What a surprise, you can say. However, the alternative, the generally recognised alternative to police controlling parking is for a civilian parking enforcement scheme. We are in Cambridgeshire one of only about 21 districts across the rest of the country that don't have CPE. So we surround Cambridge City that does have one, but the district doesn't. And part of the reason for that, and the paper that we're just about to produce on this issue, it's going to go to Cabinet, I think, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, recognises that South Cambs, as a region entirely made up of villages, at least so far, doesn't have enough of a problem to create on and off street parking charges. So nowhere in the district has parking charges. We haven't needed it. But of course, to introduce a civilian parking enforcement scheme requires you to generate money from charging for on and off street parking. So there's quite a lot of infrastructure to purchase to make that happen. You're going to put ticket machines in place and so on, and you have to have control officers working and administrative and IT systems so you can issue parking tickets and so on. So it's no surprise that the police commissioner doesn't want to do this.
So there might be on-street fines for parking infringements.
Yes, that's all included in that process. So if we look at, as we have done, we looked at North Herts, who have had a CPE for since 2005, I think. It's not allowed to generate money or cost money. It's got to be income neutral. And they more or less are. I mean, it took a while to get there for them, but it now runs more or less break even. But what was interesting is it's only because of Hitchin, much less so Baldock, Letchworth and Royston. So the vast majority of their income comes from the biggest town, and we don't have big towns. So at the moment, the feeling is that we may well return to the possibility of hiring a PCSO between several towns, because what we want to do is have a situation where parking is quelled, illegal parking is quelled, because there is a threat of a ticket being issued. So that's where we're at. But obviously we'll come back with a decision over that. But we are investigating that. Neighbouring parish councils, Shelford, for example, might have done some exercise about this in the same way we are. He's got Wallards Lane and Church Lane that are pretty bad for the parking. Yeah, sure. So,
I wanted to ask, Kevin has suggested this before, around the post office corner, where people park on the Dublin and it's most dangerous. I think Kevin had just mentioned, or was just thrown away before, whether we could put railings around there. This would solve the problem, because if people can't hop out of their cars and go straight to post office, if they have to walk round to the end of the railings, then they would park.
People though aren't just going in the post office, they don't just go in the post office. If you watch, they go to the spa, they go to the pizza place.
Yeah, but they'll be less likely because they won't be able to just park and jump out.
I'm just raising the issue that people aren't just popping into the post office.
But they mostly are when you see them, and I agree. But I do think railings there will solve the problem.
We can certainly raise that on the next LHI.
Is that something that the county would have to put in, or is it something that we could put in on our own budget? Have we got planning permission for it?
As I said, when it comes to the LHI, we can raise it, and then we can get the county to do it, and it costs us 10%.
I would have thought highways need to be involved.
It'd have to be properly looked at.
I think we did speak about it before, and we were going to
Sorry, my point is that all you'll do is people will park actually on the high street, because coming back to the point that Brian's made, people just don't care. If there's no threat, and that people already do park on the high street, they're not blue badge holders.
They drive onto the pavement.
Yeah,
they don't have to walk more than 2 yards to the cash machine.
So you'd need barriers all the way along the high street to really stop that. I would agree, maybe some strategic barriers might help, but it's not going to resolve the issue.
Something to look into. That's,
we need to consider it next time the election.
Worth considering.
Yeah.
Jane, anything else?
No, thank you.
Brian?
Oh, I think...
Done? Drive? David?
No, I've spoken to you when I was on Linton Way already, so that's in hand.
Janet?
No, I think I've already raised the issue of leaf debris, haven't I, in the street?
Yeah.
Maintenance, already done that.
Just an update on VDS.
Yeah, I can do an update on village design
Very
statement.
quickly, just so we know where we're at.
Sorry, I can't do it
no
quickly.
visibility.
Can't do it quickly. If you remember, in August we were approached about some funding for villages to put in place a village design statement. We did this, and we were one of 5 villages in South Cambs who actually offered the funding. It's a really good scheme because it does help inform the neighbourhood plan. It's different to the neighbourhood plan in that it's not to do with where development is, it's to do with what it looks like. So a lot of the focus of what we've been doing is gathering information about what designs of am I allowed to say houses or dwellings, of buildings we have in Sawston, and getting views on what people like, what they don't like, etc., and putting this together in a document. So we've had, anyway, the support we've had has enabled a consultant, Cathy Hawley, to be appointed, and she's been working with us. She's an architect. She's been working with us on the design statement. We've had 2 meetings, which has included residents as well as some councillors. We've done 2 tours of the village, so that Cathy can take photos of typical architecture, etc. And this is quite important because in Sawston we have many different styles of architecture, and it's very important to identify these, to actually get them catalogued. Cathy also went to visit the Chalice House and looked at the archives. She also met with quite a number of families at the Chalice Fete in October and got information from them about what their thoughts were about the appearance of buildings, etc. So where we're at the moment is that she has got all this information together. She's at the point where she can feed back to us on what she's found. And that session, as I think I said earlier, will be held on the 30th of January, 6 till 8 o'clock. And from the feedback on that, we'll be getting an idea of what the next steps are. It'd be wrong of me to say now what the next steps actually are, how people will be further consulted on the village design statement. But that's where we're at. And obviously it's quite important as well, before I finish, to get this in place, because we do have big developments coming up. We've already heard about the Mill Lane, and I don't know if people have actually looked at the buildings that were proposed, but some of them aren't particularly attractive, and we could actually do with something in place that helps us to say something to developers about the sort of design styles we'd like to see.
Yes, I think the thing is important to point out, it's not just about the appearance of the building, which is important, but also patterns develop and the way estates are laid out, for example. Because I mean, legibility is one important issue. You should be able to find your way around easily, which you can't in all areas of Salisbury and some of the newer estates.
You can ask for a higher standard of sustainability.
Yes, you can do. Yes, that's a good point as well.
So, and for example, in there, you could insist on electric charging points.
Yeah.
For example, which is one of the deficiencies. Unfortunately, the local plan was developed before we had significant targets for electric charging, and therefore we have some difficulty in insisting on new housing having those charging points.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Anything else, John?
No, thank you. Thank you for that.
I have a couple of things. One of them is, was there a face painter at the late night shop?
There wasn't in the end, so the cheque didn't get cashed. So, yeah.
So
do you want me to cancel the cheque and you'll shred it? Or would you just... It's gone, right, so I need to cancel it.
You could have done it.
I could have done it. I'm trying to be beautiful.
And the other one is it's that time of the year again where everybody suddenly gets really excited and everyone wants to put their name forward. It's the Buckingham Palace Garden Party, 29th of May 2019. Now control yourselves. There are some stipulations. Invitations are in recognition of past service as chairman of parish council and town mayors in England, and is therefore appropriate that outgoing members, rather than those newly elected, should be invited to attend. Guests should not have previously attended a garden party. This must be emphasised to potential guests.
So basically we need to recommend someone if we want, and I'm afraid it wasn't an
That's Eugene.
Tony?
Oh, no.
You've been...
Can we ask Eugene?
What does that mean?
You don't understand.
He did, yeah,
No longer
standing, right, okay.
So, any...
Do you want to nominate any? I have to put the names forward and then they...
I mean, the only name that springs to mind is either for me is Eugene or Samantha.
Although Samantha's down in Yorkshire, it's quite a long
way.
Yeah,
come on. They can only say no.
Eugene in Warwick or something.
Yeah, she
in
is
Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Well, does someone want to...
So, is everyone happy to with?
We can only nominate one person, can't we?
So who do we want to go for, Samantha or Eugene?
Oh, Eugene was chair for a number of years. And we did suggest he go in the past, and he wasn't able to go then. I think I'd go for Eugene.
Okay, thank you for that, Tony.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agree. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you. And my one is we've got there has been a lot of talk obviously tonight about the leaves and sweeping up. that South Council were looking at they had a machine that you could hire out and you could do it yourself?
No, it was to be loaned out.
Loaned out, sorry.
Yes, so we have it's been in Meldreth as a trial, and I'll have to go back and see where we're at with that project because it seems to be quite well received.
Yeah.
People seem to quite like.
I was just going to say, when it's loaned
in
out,
a little truck.
is it loaned with a little man, or is it or female, male or female, so a person?
A person, yes.
Or, yeah, so it's loaned out with someone to drive it, or do we get to drive it?
Oh, no.
Charge, you see,
I'll check the circumstances because I'm not entirely sure. And I think, if I remember reading right things, people were being trained to operate it themselves.
Yeah. No, yeah, is it for pavements as well as roads?
No, it is. I mean, it's primarily for pavements, but you can.
It's quite small. Because this was
Yeah, effectively.
yeah.
It's only a small
Small
thing.
sort of squares disinfected all the time.
Because when I spoke
I wouldn't be able to fit inside it.
It's not one of these jumping class and inventions.
Well, those things around the BBC.
Because when I spoke to the call centre at South Cams, and the lady there actually was really helpful. She did say she wasn't sure if they actually had a machine that could go on pavements that was small enough to go on pavements.
No, this is.
So she obviously wasn't aware of it, so you might want to feed that back as well. But I was going to ring them or contact them again anyway, because they're supposed to be calling back about it. So
the reception at the trial seemed to be very good. People were really quite.
would it be helpful to have known that?
Yes, but church ladies are problem.
It is.
Okay, right, with those joyful notes and Joy's excitement and potential drives,
To extend my hours.
I will now close tonight's meeting and thank you very much.